In today's changing society, in this shift away from a patriarchal system, many men are finding themselves in strange waters. What is the role of men in the coming paradigm? My millennial son has even lamented to me, "Men are superfluous, Mom. Women don't need us for anything." And I love you, son, but you're wrong about that. So I want to set the record straight. See, women have been fighting this patriarchal system that has continually beaten them down for centuries. We fought for the right to vote, to own property, to have a credit card in our names only. We fought for the right to be equally educated, to have professional careers, to be responsible for our own bodies, and to make the same wages as our male counterparts. We had to be twice as good to get half the credit, and we're still fighting. And all of that fighting has made us strong. And now, even though we still have a long way to go to a system of true equality, we are reveling in the joy of finally being seen, heard, and stepping into our power. It's all very new, very fresh, and we're making a lot of mistakes along the way. And for the men who are trying to figure out if there's still a place for them in this emerging dynamic, it's very confusing and perhaps a bit scary. I get that. And it seems to me that fear may be the underlying factor in the ultra-conservative corners that are fighting to remove so many of the rights women have won in recent years. I've said this before, but it bears repeating and repeating and repeating. We do not have to let the pendulum swing from patriarchy to matriarchy. We can, and I believe we must, stop the swing and find the sweet spot in the middle. This is what so many of our faith traditions have taught us. All of humankind is sacred. All is important. And we need each other to share in sacred communion. Jesus honored and respected the women who followed him. He talked to the women no differently than his male followers. He treated all the same. The book of Galatians in the Bible offers this verse: "There is neither Jew nor Gentile, neither slave nor free, nor is there male and female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus." Abdul Baha, son of the founder of the Baha'i faith, said, "The world of humanity has two wings. One is women and the other is men. And not until both wings are equally developed can the bird fly. Should one wing remain weak, flight is impossible." The cornerstone of Sikhism is the belief that all humans are one and of equal worth, and that Waheguru is present in every person, male or female, as the Atma, the divine spark. The Guru Granth Sahib states, "There is only one breath. All are made of the same clay. The light within all is the same. The one light pervades all the many and various beings." The Buddha's core teaching is, of course, about a middle way between all extremes that do not offer a true path to enlightenment. The path to enlightenment, he said, is the middle way. And archaeologists now are rediscovering matriarchal systems that may have existed millennia ago, indicating that the pendulum may already have swung from one extreme to the other. So this is the time, these are the conditions when we finally need to find the middle way. We need to stop pitting ourselves against each other. Life isn't a competition. It's time to work together to build each other up instead of tearing each other down to climb over the bodies. Society needs all of us, all of us. So can we stop now with the descriptive terms of gender, race, religion, ethnicity, and so on, and start becoming the best people we can be? Can we shift to a focus that is not on the external appearances, but on the content of our character? See, we need each other. We need to work not only to be the best person we can be, but also to help our neighbor, friend, lover, sibling, parent, child, etc., be the best person they can be. And when we do that, we are all lifted. We all benefit. We discover that each one of us has a place, a family, in a community, in a society, and in the world. We have a place on this earth and a place in heaven. So let's stop thinking about prescriptive gender roles of men and women, because we all know that a man can be a terrific mother and a woman can be a fabulous father. It's within any of us to assume any role necessary. And indeed, like the Taoist yin-yang symbol, where the yin contains a spot of the yang and the yang contains a spot of the yin, each of us has both masculine and feminine aspects present, and it is in the swirl of both that we have wholeness. Let's start thinking now about archetypes and humanity. Instead of trying to force all men to be warriors and all women to be nurturers, let's encourage the development of all of the archetypes in each person. Encourage each person to find their path. There are many archetypes depending on the sources you study. The green man from the song is just one of those, the sacred connection to nature. So what does it mean now to be a man? You know, what society has encouraged up to this time is what we now call toxic masculinity. This view stresses that in order to be a man, one must be strong, both physically and mentally. One must never show their emotions. Men are warriors who protect and provide for their families. It encourages men to judge others whom they deem less than themselves and humiliate them to make themselves look better. We know better, but this is what our society has valued most, the he-man warrior, whether on the battlefield or the football field. We see images of this every day. We see how these buffed athletes, actors, and the dictatorial businessmen are paid millions to look and perform that way on their respective playing fields. This overblown toxic masculine energy has led to misogyny and been a huge disservice to men who don't fit that profile. It's left many wondering if they're really a man because they don't fit that masculine stereotype. It's hurt everyone, especially the men who have adopted this way of life and the women in their lives. It's time to wake up. And many are. And thanks to pop culture songs like Cats in the Cradle by Harry Chapin from the 1970s, led men to see what they were missing and the impact it had on their children when they focused solely on their careers and on being tough. Thanks to the battles of the feminist movement in the workplace, we now see a shift toward men also having the ability to take family leave for a new child, just as the women have fought for and earned. Thanks to the children who determined that they wouldn't be like their fathers when they grew up, we are seeing more men showing their emotions, embracing their families, each other, and those they love. It's becoming expected and respected for men to be real. So what does it mean for men to really be real? Do you remember the advertising campaign some years ago that stated, "Real men eat beef"? This was obviously a marketing ploy by the Cattle Growers Association, but that knowledge didn't make that campaign any less effective. It shamed men to not be feminine or unreal by not eating beef. Beef is for manly men, Solely masculine men, these ads implied. Just as women have fallen for marketing campaigns to look slimmer, younger, and sexier, men have been manipulated to associate toxic masculinity with being a real man. Matthew Fox addressed this in his book, The Hidden Spirituality of Men, 10 Metaphors to Awaken the Sacred Masculine, which seeks to balance the women's movement toward the goddess, divine feminine, with her masculine counterpart, the sacred masculine. One of the most important aspects of life that has been suppressed or hidden for centuries in men is their spirituality. And by recognizing and adopting the sacred masculine as an archetype for masculinity, we are restoring spirituality to men and bringing balance with the women who have long enjoyed and honored this aspect of their lives. This is such a refreshing alternative to the toxic versions of masculinity that have been promoted in our society for so long. And it provides a resource for men who are perplexed about what being a man really means. So I would like to offer just a few of the attributes Fox offers of men in this book, of men who embody the sacred masculine. He says, real men work to save the planet, and like any prophet, take the attacks that standing up for a moral cause invariably brings about. Real men meditate. They're not afraid to look inside and see the vastness that is there. Real men love their bodies. They work to keep them healthy, honoring their temple with good food and cleansing exercise. They stand up to the ways and poisons of corporate food and corporate agriculture that fill our bodies and those of our children with toxic sugars and chemicals. Real men are not homophobic or heterophobic. They acknowledge and respect the diversity of creation, which includes sexual diversity. Real men are warriors, not soldiers. They learn to battle, jihad, within oneself first, to overcome the temptations of power for power's sake, greed, power over, and power under. They seek power with, which is compassion. Real men wage peace, not war. Real men know that peace is harder to wage than war, and that waging peace begins in one's own heart. Real men are not afraid of the dark night of the soul. They do not run from it, but know that darkness has important things to teach them. Real men criticize institutions, including religious ones, that wage lies and wars that poison the true meaning of justice and religion. Real men use all the brains God has given them, the intellectual and rational brain, and the intuitive and mystical brain. Real men remain curious and alive and are always learning, and they hunt for ways to heal and preserve what is good and beautiful. Real men respect women. They respect the women in their lives, and the women's movements fight for justice and gender equality for all people. Real men befriend other men. Real men do not shame themselves or other men about their masculinity. Real men channel their aggression in ways that do not harm themselves or others. Real men stand up to addictions that dictate to their soul, and they do the inner work necessary to detox inside. Real men embrace the divine feminine in themselves. They know all humans are a sacred marriage of masculine and feminine, and they commit to knowing and nurturing this balance for a lifetime. I want to reiterate that these are just a few of Fox's attributes of the sacred masculine. And for those who are interested, I would suggest reading further on this subject. Authors such as Moore and Gillette, who wrote King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, Robert Bly's Iron John, and of course, the noted psychologist Carl Jung. And as I was researching this topic, I was genuinely and pleasantly surprised at how long ago the men's movement began, starting in earnest really in the 1990s, and how many books are now available on this topic. There are men's circles and programs available to assist men in connecting with their inner God and stepping into the sacred masculine. As I speak those words, inner God, it occurs to me that if we as a society believe that we are made in God's image, like Him, and we think of our Heavenly Father as sort of a larger than life version of our own fathers, and yet we hold concepts of toxic masculinity as an example of fatherhood, then we're projecting onto God our own distorted and immature ideals of masculinity. We have in our minds created a God who is overbearing, judgmental, jealous, and retributive, rather than compassionate and loving. As Juanita Ryan states, we may affirm that we believe in a God of love and grace, but our images of God may be of an abusive bully. And that, I think, is the reason we need to examine our constructs of masculinity. We will never attain harmony, balance, or find the middle way to enlightenment as long as we entertain these notions of a retributive God as a father figure. We will never be able to work together or live together, appreciating the diversity of archetypes of adulthood and the unique gifts each brings to humanity, as long as we remain in conflict and competition with each other. The pendulum will continue to swing from one extreme to the other. It's time that we recognize that we need each other. We need women who have embraced their divine feminine and sacred masculine, and we need men who have embraced their sacred masculine and divine feminine. We need to cast out the toxic societal standards of masculinity and femininity and embrace each other for the joy of being in sacred communion. Men aren't superfluous, son, and neither are women. We can, each of us, be independent, fully capable of taking care of ourselves. But it's in being interdependent that the magic of life in the sacred community truly happens. As the sacred masculine is honored with its divine feminine aspect in one person, and the divine feminine is honored with its sacred masculine aspect in another, and as these two individuals then find balance and harmony together, there is a brilliant sacredness and wholeness in that relationship. As Rupi Kaur wrote, and I love using this quote for my marriage ceremonies, I do not want to have you to fill the empty parts of me. I want to be so complete I could light a whole city. And then I want to have you, because the two of us combined could set it on fire. Let us first find the Atma, the divine spark within us. Examine both the sacred masculine and the divine feminine, and allow them to swirl and flow together in wholeness. Let us, each of us, be complete and whole within ourselves, and then share that wholeness with all around us, lifting each other to reveal the highest ideal and the best version of human we each can be. So may it be.